a domestic animal, it would be difficult for us to exist. They supply our most essential food. They furnish a large part of the clothing we wear. In the work life of the nation, they do much of our manual labor. In return for these services, we must fulfill our responsibility by caring for the animal's health and welfare. They must be watered. They must be fed. Their sleeping quarters kept clean. While young, they must be trained and prepared for their ultimate job. The dog aids man in other ways. In time of war, his work is of a serious nature. In time of peace, he acts as our protector. He guides the handicapped. The dog's duties may lie in the sporting field, or he may be just a devoted and loyal companion. Today, there is no question of the dog's place in society. He goes everywhere. He's a definite part of our lives. His interests and his world, they are expanded. The elite of his world are governed by the American Kennel Club, where detailed records are kept of each registered dog's history and achievements. There are humane societies to help care for and guard every dog against ill treatment. When necessary, these societies have laws enforced for his protection. The standards of each breed are maintained in the show ring. This is where the bench show champions are made. In a trial such as this, a dog wins obedience titles, permitting the use of letters after his name, the equivalent of a PhD. And there are schools where he may learn the good manners that every pet should know. This might be called a prep school of dogdom. Teaching the proper feeding, care, and training, that should begin early. The young learn quickly the pleasure of this responsibility. The general public may be informed of what's right and what's wrong through radio broadcasts, through specialized dog film, through magazines, newspapers, and books. One such book is this, where the author stresses the fact it's not the dog that needs training, but the owner. When puppies are small, they require little of life. They need plenty to eat and drink. They like a clean, dry yard in which to play. They should have a comfortable place to sleep. Time to teach them how to live with people is when they're young, for this age spells double trouble. Let's see why these adorable little balls of fur turn into such nightmares. Here's one of them. The first rule of housebreaking is never give a puppy the run of the house. The wise owner tries to prevent mistakes instead of having to correct them. When confined in a small area, the puppy soon learns to be clean. He is always put out of doors first thing in the morning. always after each meal, always after a hard play, and always the last thing at night. The puppy that is paper broken is easily tempted. So watch your daily news, or Times or Tribune. Nevertheless, even the wise owner expects some trouble. To avoid hand shyness, the corrections are not made unless the puppy is held firmly. This little fellow doesn't yet know why he's being taken outdoors. That's what we call a curb, laddie. If you live in the city, you will have to use that instead of a backyard. You'll learn someday. But your owner isn't much help when he turns you loose in the house again. Our wise friend controls his puppy. When he won't do it outside, he is not permitted to do it inside. Limiting his freedom is half the battle of housebreaking. Later, when given a chance, there are immediate results. We admit we like dogs, but not at night under these circumstances. Golly, could I choke that one? Just wait until your Missy gets home. You'll catch it.
Hello. My name's Timmy. I'm not very old, but I know better than to bark and chew things, and I stay alone, too. It started a long time ago when I was only 9 weeks old. I was very proud that I was chosen to go to a new home. But my pride was hurt when I realized I wasn't to be trusted, but was confined in a small space with every inch of floor covered with newspapers. I heard Missy say something about paper breaking. And finally I realized what the papers were for. They were then taken up, except those in the corner I especially liked. The first time my new owner left me alone, I was afraid she didn't like me. I had hoped she'd let me be with her all day long. I was lonesome. Oh, the scoldings I got for crying. It seemed I was always being told no. Sometimes when I cried, there was a strange noise. I couldn't figure it out, but it happened every time I made a fuss. Even as I grew older, I never liked being left by myself. The way Missy tricked me was something scandalous. I never knew when I was completely alone and when I wasn't. Was I a surprised pup? She must have had the patience of Job. But gradually I learned what it was all about. Now when I'm left, I don't mind because I know my family will always come home. That chewing business wasn't so simple. I couldn't understand why there was always such a crash when rugs were so handy to play with. I sampled a shoe, and nearly everything I touched brought startling results. Except my own special toys and my lovely, juicy bones. It didn't take long to learn what things were safe to chew on. It was the same when I barked. Always a sudden crash. I never knew where those things came from. During my early schooling, I thought life wasn't going to be fun at all. It was don't do this and don't do that. If I got up on the furniture, I was scolded and quickly pushed down. I'll never forget the day I jumped on the chair and a monster snapped at me. I stay on the floor now, believe me. Being a friendly puppy, I like to say hello to folks, and I'd forget that my paws were dirty. I jumped up again and again. Then something happened. I fell over backwards. I had only myself to blame, so I didn't try that trick anymore. As I grew older and liked to steal, I got my nose slapped. Sometimes the smells were so tempting, but I knew they would be watching. It was such fun chasing cars and horseback riders. But I soon learned my lesson when I got chased instead. That wasn't any fun. My pal Trixie was killed that way. My life's gayer and happier now that I'm beginning to understand. I didn't always like my collar and lead. Now I love going for a walk. When we pass through a doorway, I am considered well-mannered. I wait for my Missy to go first. Missy taught me not to fear the lead when I was very young. We made a game of it. But I like people, especially when they play with me. I am a friendly dog. Because I'm nearly 7 months old, they are giving me simple obedience. I'm learning new words like heel and sit. They're teaching me the meaning of lie down, to stay when told, and to come when called. This is only the beginning of my obedience training. Won't I be the educated pup? I guess this is what they call growing up, you know, adolescence. There are things we do that our owners don't like, but confidentially, there are some things our owners do that we don't like either. We hate to be teased. It's not fair to make us cross. Too many of us are already bad-tempered. We're allowed to do something one day and we think it's all right. The next day we're scolded for doing the very same thing. That's why we get confused. We won't hold a grudge if punished when caught in the act. But it's not fair to be so angry with us hours later. Our memories aren't very long, and we don't always remember our mistakes. Most of us can take a good old-fashioned spanking. But if we're the sensitive type, we like to be corrected gently, even when we've done something dreadful. It's not necessary to go to a lot of work and expense to keep us well fed. Most of us grow and thrive on a basic diet of prepared dog food. One of the better brands of meal-type dog food mixed with warm water gives us all the vitamins, minerals, and other things we need. You can use milk or gravy instead of water if you want, or add cooked meat sometimes. But the dog meal already contains meat elements, plus a lot of important things that meat alone does not provide. We like to be fed at regular hours, and good square meals fed on time are better than any number of daytime snacks. And don't forget that while we are young and growing, we need up to twice as much food for our size as a grown dog, divided into several meals a day. If we refuse our dinner, it may mean we're not feeling well. The best way to be certain is to take our temperature. We won't mind. Not really. 101 to 102 is normal, but 103 degrees means a quick trip to the veterinarian. We must have fresh, clean water where we can get it whenever we're thirsty. That way we drink often and little at a time and don't get sick. If we have our own bed away from all drafts, we'll let our owner have her bed to herself. Riding is something we all like, but start taking us while we're young so our tummies won't turn so many somersaults. Those first rides can be quite terrible when we're not used to them. Testing regularly for worms is a must. We may have one of several kinds that can only be seen through a microscope. It's an awful feeling to be lost. Help us feel safe. See that every year we have a license tag and nameplate attached to our collars. This way our names and addresses are registered and our owners can quickly be located. It was weeks before Brownie was reunited with Jimmy because she had no license tag. She might never have been found. When we are groomed and brushed daily, we don't feel neglected. We're a very proud animal. When fleas and other parasites make us uncomfortable, a bath is always welcome. Any coal tar product will do the work. Before starting to bathe, stuff our ears with cotton to keep the water out. If you wet us with plenty of warm water, we soak easier. Oh, that does feel good. A thorough rinsing makes our coat shine. A brisk rubbing dries us quickly and keeps us from catching cold. If the tartar is scraped from our teeth, they'll be white and beautiful. Like our owners, we want to keep our nice teeth. We need them for those big knuckle bones. A swab dipped in alcohol or ether removes the wax from our ears. If this is done regularly, we might avoid that painful canker trouble that so many of us have. Keep our nails cut. When they grow long, we get flat feet. Through filing, they'll keep short and we won't damage stockings and rugs. After a final combing, we are ready for the day's adventure.
They're all dogs, and they live only for their masters. They give unquestioning loyalty, patience, and forgiveness. In return for their unselfish love, they ask for good care, and above all, affection and understanding. After centuries of careless upbringing, we can all profit from this new idea of training. What do you say, Timmy? Let's train each other.